Derrick Henry and the Tennessee Titans take on the Pittsburgh Steelers and their terrible towels, and it's coming at you right after the bumper. What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time checking it out, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe down below. Once you do that, you get put in for the free Corey Davis jersey giveaway. Once we hit that 500 sub mark, we're going to send that out. Today we're covering the Tennessee Titans taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, the only 3-0 versus 3-0 this upcoming week, if it happens. We're putting out this video as of on Wednesday. It is still scheduled to occur on Sunday, and if not, it might be moved to Monday or Tuesday. And that looks like where we're at currently. And hopefully, if not, it'll be put back for the bye weeks and it'll still happen. And if not, at the end of the season. There's so much still up in the air, but we're playing it out like it's happening this week. But let's hop right into it. So this is the first time since 2008 that the Tennessee Titans have started 3-0. That was a Kerry Collins-led team when Vince Young went down to early injury, and he took it and ran with it. And I love Kerry Collins, and that was a great season. Lindell White and CJ, before he was 2K, ended up combining for over 2,000 rushing yards, and Justin Gage was our leading receiver with 651 yards on the season. That tells you how long ago it was, and hopefully we can take that momentum and move to a 10-0 start like we did in that season, and ended up finishing 13-3 before we ended up getting knocked out in the playoffs. But we won't talk about that. But it's an amazing start, and hopefully we can continue that momentum going into this week. My man Derrick Henry had a great game last week, finally getting that yard per carry up. Still leading the NFL in rushing currently, got the 2 touchdowns last week. His touch count, though, is something of concern, and it is very high. And looking at past years, we're like, give Derrick Henry the ball. Give him the ball earlier in the season. And that was something we just didn't really see until really last year. But now they're almost going over the top with it. He's on pace for 493 total touches, breaking the record, which is 492 touches, held by James Wilder out of Tampa Bay in 1984. So that's one of those things that it is concerned. We do have him for long term now. This isn't a 1 year and done kind of thing. We have to kind of help him with that pitch count a little bit. And we saw Darrington Evans get his first couple touches of his young career last week, and he looked fine. I mean, he's a change of pace back. He's definitely got the wheels. He can definitely be that speedster, change of pace back for us. And hopefully we see him kind of get more acclimated into the offense and take away some of the touches for Derrick Henry, which might not what you want to hear for your fantasy team, but in the long term, it's going to help him definitely down that stretch when he definitely picks up that head of steam. So one of the major things the Tennessee Titans are going to need to address in this game is the offensive line play. And even before Taylor Lewan went down to injury, which doesn't seem to be anything serious, and he might even play this week, and when Sam Brallow came in, nothing was really meshing well even before that. And eventually they kind of got that rushing game going later in the game, and Derrick Henry ended up having a great game. But I wouldn't contribute a lot of that to the actual offensive line. And where's Isaiah Wilson? He's been on the COVID list for 3 weeks now. And that's one of those things that it shouldn't take longer than 2 weeks. Are they hiding a potential injury of sorts, and is he just going to stay on there for the next little bit? Or could this be more for the publicity? We know he had the DUI, and it was kind of hush-hush. Are they just letting that die down, and hopefully everybody will forget, and they just kind of slowly bring it back in? Or is he just not ready for it? Ty didn't have a great game. He kind of got abused by Yannick, but Yannick usually abuses us as is. But that's something they're going to need to address, and they're taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, which have the leading rush defense in the NFL, and they're just in second in sacks. So this is going to be a tough game for them, and even with the reduced practice time, if this game does happen, is something of concern to say the least. So one part that the Tennessee Titans might be able to attack is definitely over the middle. So we saw those Khalif Raymond deep posts, and he had that streak down the sideline last week. That's something they need to adjust into their game plan for this week as well. Minkah Fitzpatrick, after an awesome season with Pittsburgh Steelers in his first year, is having a down year thus far. He has a 51.2 grade as far as PFF goes, and we see him as what he could have been last season, and hopefully he's not this season for this game at least. I really like Minka. I think he's a top 5 safety in the league currently, and hopefully he puts it back together, just not this week. So Ryan Tannehill did have a statistical down game last week. He didn't have any touchdowns. He had the 1 interception, and he should have had at least 1 or maybe even 2 more in that game. But we saw him start to air the ball out deep a couple different times. And one thing that I saw that was a little bit concerning was Khalif Raymond was doubled in snaps by Cameron Batson, who is definitely not as good as Khalif in my personal opinion. But that's one thing that Tannehill is doing a great job as, is spreading the ball around. Jonnu got his targets. Corey got his targets. Adam Humphries got his targets. Ferkser was in there. Pruitt was in there. And that was a good thing. And he had the yards, and he was converting for first downs a lot of the time. But we just didn't get in the end zone. So that might be another buy low candidate for your fantasy football team if you're in desperate need for him. I obviously might not start him this week. But the Steelers, if they have shown something of concern, it is the secondary. What is helping him is that pass rush is getting to the quarterback more often than not and kind of disguising that a little bit more. So speaking of bad secondaries, we have the Tennessee Titans, who we at least know the secondary didn't catch the COVID because they weren't within 6 feet of anybody last week. Justin Jefferson absolutely abused him, bent him over the knee. Christian Fulton even tweeted out after the game saying, "Hey, please don't do that to us again, at least on us." And that's something that we see that Jonathan Joseph did have a couple great open field tackles, but the stat line of where he was targeted, he was absolutely awful. So getting Adoree back hopefully this week, we'll see how that plays out. With not having any practice time, they might hold him out for an additional week. But once we do get him back, that should help transform this defense a little bit better, and hopefully they slowly start to turn that curve and get up on that upward edge. They are doing decently well in the scoring of defenses. I think they're currently ranked 14th at points allowed, which is definitely a little bit on the uptick and kind of just shows that they're not as bad as they look on paper. As long as we're holding people back, that is all we really need, and let Derrick Henry and Tannehill run this offense. We should stay in most of these games, and they might not be blowouts, unfortunately. At least not till they start to mesh together a little bit better. The one thing the Titans defense is doing well this season is causing turnovers. So we have 6 turnovers on the seasons for the defense, which is second in the NFL, only behind the Browns. So as long as we win this turnover battle, that is where we're going to win these close games. And that is what we need to happen in this game as well. Get a fumble from James Conner. Pick off Big Ben. I personally don't like the way Big Ben has looked thus far this season. He has had decent stat lines, but I think coming back off that injury, you can still see that he doesn't have the arm strength that he once did, but he's still strong in the pocket, and you're going to have to bring him down. So that is one thing I think that we might be able to get another pick or two in this game, but we got to find a way to win that turnover battle, or it's not going to be pretty. So we did see the Titans turn up that pass rush late in the game, especially on that last drive where Kirk Cousins, I think, lost 16 yards and ended up throwing that game-sealing interception at the very end to Amani Hooker. But before that, we saw Clowney just play with a reckless aggression, and that's what he's known for his entire career. He did cost us that pick 6 that Jonathan Joseph did catch, and we see that just every week. He just has those little mental lapses, and that's something he's going to need to improve upon. And then we also saw Vic Beasley on the field for the very first time. He had 15 total defensive snaps. I think 9 of them were actually pass rushing. And he did get some pressure on the quarterback, which is nice to see. Hopefully he'll come back next week and be even a little bit more involved. But it was one of those things that it was reason to believe that there is an upside to this defense as far as the pass rushing goes. I think it's evident we have a future superstar in Big Jeff, Jeffrey Simmons as well. He finished with a 92.8 grade as far as PFF on this week, which moves him to 7th overall as far as defensive players on the entire year, right behind Aaron Donald. And that shows you the steps he's making in year 2. And if he continues this success, he's going to be a future All-Pro. He's going to be a future Hall of Famer. He's going to keep it going. He's going to be that next star as far as defensive linemen go. And that's what we are hoping for when we drafted him late in first round. As soon as that recovery of the ACL was healed, he's been great ever since. So after 3 weeks, we kind of take this time and look and see who has been our MVP as far as the Titans go this season? And I almost look at it as maybe even Stephen Gostkowski. Even after that shaky week 1, he's been on fire this last week, and he did miss that extra point in week 2, but he's won all 3 games for us thus far, and that's something we do need to account for. It shows you the mental aptitude that he has as a kicker to shake off that week 1 and come back on fire and hit all of those kicks last week, and we needed every single one of them to win that game. And it shows you that John Robinson is a great GM to not just let him go after that first week, but to hold out and see the player that we got now is amazing. And I think our kicking woes have been fixed, which was our biggest concern last season, and we all know that. That was just appalling to watch. And seeing week 1, I was having concerns again. I thought we were going to bring up Tucker McMahon from the practice squad, get rid of him. But John Robinson, you're the man. Keep it up. So on the offensive side of the ball for the Steelers, we know we have Deontay Johnson in the concussion protocol, and it's yet to be seen if he'll play this week or not. He took a hell of a hit last week. Hopefully he does, and he's healthy, and hopefully gets back for this game. But if he does not, we're going to see an uptick in targets for Eric Ebron, which the Titans have allowed a touchdown to the tight end in every game thus far this season. So he could have a big game, as well as Juju Smith-Schuster. We also saw James Washington have an uptick in targets last week as well, and that's one of those things. And then Chase Claypool, man, just makes plays. He's not going to make a lot of them a game, but the ones he does make are going to be big. So it's something the Titans need to account for, especially in the passing game. And then the rushing game, James Conner. He just gets those yards. He gets those hard-fought, bounces off tackles. Looking at him on film, I think he might be the slowest back in the absolute NFL. And that's saying a lot looking at players like Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, these people that finished with a very slow 40 time. And then we look at the rookie, Anthony McFarland. Had a couple snaps last week and looked good doing it. So will we see Mike Tomlin move on to more of a split carry backfield, which is something he really doesn't like doing as far as his entire NFL coaching career. It's been a one-back system. It was Le'Veon Bell, and then it was James Conner, and that was it. So he doesn't like splitting the carries a whole lot, but it's hard to keep a guy off the field like that, especially the way he was running last week. So prediction time. So the Titans are under the gun in this one, obviously being short on practice time, but also playing a great opponent in the Pittsburgh Steelers. But they do play well when they're not favored. And I think this is going to be a game that we'll look back in history saying this is the day the Tennessee Titans defeated not only the Pittsburgh Steelers, but COVID, moving to 4-0. I think Jadeveon Clowney is going to be the player of the game. I think he's going to have 2+ sacks. He's going to have a forced turnover of some sort, and he's going to be on Big Ben's back the entire game. And I think we're going to win this a little bit a little bit lower scoring than the rest of the season thus far. I have the Titans winning 21-17 over the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then we move it into Buffalo. But that's it for me today, guys. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe down below. Drop those predictions. But other than that, guys, y'all have a beautiful time, and I'll see you.